In fact, the Buddha himself said that should you get the opportunity to offer to all the Buddhas the world filled with jewels, the precious gems, and the merit that you accumulate by doing this gesture, and on the other hand, just meditating on compassion for a single moment of time, if you compare the two merits, the merit accumulated by meditating on a single moment of compassion towards the sentient beings, that far excels even the merit that you accumulate by offering the whole world filled with gems to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Okay, so from that point of view, we are all very fortunate that this place, Tibet House, which was initially founded by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the true embodiment of compassion, we're all very fortunate that we're meditating together in this hall on compassion, on unconditional love, on bodhicitta. And precisely on the second method, the method of equalizing self and others, on the basis of Bodhisattva Shantideva's text, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And I would very much encourage all of you to always keep this book with you, a guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, with you as a guide, lifelong guide. Okay, with that in mind, reinforce the visualization of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who actually went through this meditation for eons and eons in the past, and now having become a Buddha, fully enlightened being, for the benefit of all sentient beings. And particularly Buddha Shakyamuni, Arya Manjushri, Arya Maitreya, Arya Nagarjuna, Arya Sangha, Arya Dev, Acharya Chandrakriti, Bodhisattva Shantideva, Bodhisattva Shantarakshita, then Atisha Dipangara Shrigyana, then his teacher on Bodhicitta, Lama Selingpa, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Reinforce the visualization of your two kind parents on the two sides. It doesn't matter whether they are Hindus, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, Muslims, non-believers, it doesn't matter. They've been so kind to you. This kindness that you have received from them, that becomes the seed of your bodhicitta. Reinforce the visualization of all your family members, all sentient beings around you. Okay. Method of equalizing and exchanging self-others has 9 steps. The first step, equalizing self and others. Me and all others. While my natural reaction is that I'm more important than others. How do you know that? When I'm desperately when I'm desperately thirsty, and all others are equally desperately thirsty, should someone bring a glass of water, who's going to have it? My response, my very natural response is, I will have it, I'll have it. You simply ignore others. This is my natural reaction, which tells that my thinking is very biased. It is not, there's no sense of equalizing self and others. But in actuality, if somebody asks me, why do you go for yourself than others? Because I'm thirsty. But others also thirsty? You're right. More than that, what extra reason do you have to justify that you should have this water? No reason left. No reason left. Only reason that I have at the most is that I don't want the pain of thirst. And this reason is applicable to all others as well. So from that point of view, by no means I'm superior to others. By no means others are inferior to me. We are all same. We are all same. We are all same from the point of view of the fact that we are all equal in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. Okay, now take a deep, abide in this experience of a deep conviction that we are all equal in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. Make a deep conviction. This is very true. Commitment. Henceforth, I will always treat myself and others as equal. I will never treat myself as more important than others. I will never treat others as inferior to me. Okay, just make this commitment. And if you're not sure whether you're going to do that, then make the commitment slightly in a different way. To the best of my ability, I will try to view all others and myself as equal, not myself as superior, not others as inferior, to the best I can. And I will improve on it further. Okay, make this commitment. Okay, next. Reflecting on the demerits of cherishing oneself. I'm so addicted to the self-centered attitude. But in actuality, this self-centered attitude, it does not do anything good to me. And I've been following this self-centered attitude, thinking that this will give me strength, this may give me everything. But in actuality, it only attracts misery. For example, say those people who fight over such a trivial thing, there's a small accident, just no one is hurt, small accident, and one person saying that you are the faulty side, and the other one saying no, you are the fault. Then you started having a fist fight, and then both are injured, both end up in prison. What's the point? And then they may go to the extent of stabbing each other. So look, just the initial small fight, a small accident, this can happen to everyone. And this small accident was the problem. They don't want to bear this pain. Now they are given a false courage. Now they are going through such an unbearable pain, much more expansive in scale. This is all because of the self-centered attitude. So stupid, so childish in nature. So this self-centered attitude is the one which gives you a false energy and strength, and then it makes you end up in all miseries, much worse, several times multiplied by the initial problem that you had of the accident. This is the stupidity of the self-centered attitude. And the fears of death, sickness, all these things, they're all because attracted by the self-centered attitude. The fact that we have to die is because of the self-centered attitude. And then many people, because of the self-centered attitude, they're being so selfish, they dare to even do so much harm on the parents, the most loved ones. They dare to do so much harm on their own children and so forth. This is all. How can a sensible parent, how can a sensible child think of harming their very beloved parents and children? But today you are doing that because of the selfishness, self-centered attitude. So this self-centered attitude, it does nothing good. It simply attracts, pushes you to engage in all these non-virtuous, unwholesome acts. Eventually you regret. And selfishness. The more selfish the person is, the more the people will run away from this person. The more lonely you will feel. So this pain of loneliness is again created by selfishness. And because of this selfishness, we tend to engage in stealing others' wealth. We tend to separate others from their near and dear ones and so forth. And as a result, it makes you accumulate negative karma. And because of which, you will suffer poverty in the future. You see that this is because of the self-centered attitude. And taking birth in the lower realms, this is because of our harming others. Harming others. And harming others is because of this self-centered attitude. So we don't want to take birth in the lower realms. And then we are forced to take birth there. Because of negative karma accumulated, motivated by the self-centered attitude. So this self-centered attitude, it is not at all doing anything good. While we want a favorable birth, it attracts unfavorable birth. While we want wealth, it attracts poverty. So all these undesirable things, they're simply attracted by the self-centered attitude. So these are the demerits of self-centered attitude. Any fight happening, any disharmony, any conflict happening, necessarily they are because of this self-centered attitude involved. And nobody wants to be involved in conflict. Step number 3, reflecting on the merits of cherishing others. Look at His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He's being loved by everyone. It's all because of his cherishing others. Look at the Mother Teresa. Look at Jesus Christ. Look at Mahatma Gandhi. Look at the saint Vinoba saint Vinoba Bhave. Vinoba Bhave. Look at all these great saints. They are so great, all because of cherishing others. We want to be as great as them. And of course, no doubt, the Buddha Shakyamuni. He was a prince who had everything and fought to save the humanity, to save the sentient beings. He went through all these practices and eventually he became fully enlightened. He's being loved by everyone. And the wealth that we need, we put so much of effort. Where some people, they're born in a family born with English expression, born with a silver spoon in their mouth, which means that they don't have to put any effort and that they're born with such wealth. Whereas we put so much effort in accumulating wealth. And then some people, they're born with such a favorable, healthy body. And we all work for good health. Likewise, all this intelligence and so forth, and the power and so forth, they are all the results of great compassion towards others. And great compassion is possible only if you cherish others. So other cherishing, this is what attracts all the good things. What we want is happiness. And from these two reflections, point number 2 and 3, we see that all happinesses are derived through wishing happiness for others. And we don't want suffering. We shun miseries. And miseries are attracted by self-centered attitude. So from here, we need to make a commitment not to give in to self-centered attitude and instead embrace other cherished mind. Okay. Now step number 4 and 5. Practice of Tonglen. Practice of giving your happiness to others and taking the suffering of others. The first one, taking the suffering of others with emphasis on compassion. Okay, imagine all sentient beings in front of you. And imagine they in their own respective miseries. For example, those in the hands of the terrorists, those in the hospitals, those in hospices, and those being bullied by people here and there, those young children who are so vulnerable, and those animals in the slaughterhouse, and those poor chickens. Just think of all these beings, and those sea animals. The fish, the crabs, and so forth, in the hotels, in the restaurants. They're suffering terribly. And we had been like them. The same plight so many times in the past. Now knowing that all these things are because of the self-centered attitude, knowing that they can be eliminated by other cherishing mind. Only when you cherish others, you attract the greatest happiness. With that in mind, let's take the suffering of others towards yourself with emphasis on compassion. As we breathe in, let's breathe in. Okay, those of you who have leg problem, leg numbness, slowly stretch your legs. the thing is that your legs should not disturb your mind. So relax your legs. If you feel little numbness, make sure that your mind is meditating and your legs are in the proper position where your legs are rested, well rested. Okay, even if you have to stretch it. Don't feel free to stretch them. Okay. Suffering is of three kinds. Suffering that the sentient beings are going through, there are three kinds. One is the suffering of suffering, which is the evident suffering, which I've described now. Second one is the suffering of change, all the contaminated happinesses. Third one is the suffering, the pervasive conditioned suffering. So let's take each one of them as we breathe in. Imagine all the sufferings of other sentient beings, the fears the other sentient beings are going through. You are just sucking them, as you breathe in, sucking them in the form of black soot, and very turbulent, forceful black soot, and very dirty, polluted water, and so forth. They just enter through, they gush through your left nostril as you breathe in through your left nostril, and then they just forcefully go towards your heart, where the self-centered attitude and self-grasping ignorance is within there, and then they simply fight, they simply eat up, consume these two within you, and your self-centered attitude, self-grasping ignorance are eliminated. Okay, let's do it 3 times. As we take in the first breath, take a deep breath, take deep breath. As you do that, imagine you are taking the first suffering, all the manifest suffering, and then as you breathe out, imagine that the fight is going there at your heart. The fight between the external black suit, all the sufferings of sentient beings are from black suit, and then they are fighting with the self-grasping ignorance, self-centered attitude within your heart, and then your self-centered attitude, the self-grasping ignorance are eliminated. Okay, so this process we should do as we breathe out. And then when you breathe in next, you take in all the suffering of change. And then again the same process, fighting. Then the third, the pervasive conditioned suffering. Pervasive conditioned suffering meaning that our involuntary having to take birth in samsara and under the force of contaminant karmas and afflictions. Okay, we'll take 3 deep breaths. With the first, the truth of the manifest suffering. Second, the contaminated happiness. And third, the pervasive conditioned suffering. Okay, let's do that 3 times. Okay, now imagine that all sentient beings, they are freed of all 3 kinds of suffering. You are so happy. Just abide in this experience of the happiness, seeing that all sentient beings, including your mother, father, all family members, all sentient beings are freed from any kind of suffering. Now next, step number 5, giving your happiness to all sentient beings with emphasis on loving kindness. So here, first we give generosity. Generosity is of 4 kinds. 1, generosity of material things. Number 2, generosity of love, which means giving love. Number 3, generosity of giving protection to the lives of others, protection and giving security to others. Then the next one is generosity of dharma. Okay, first we'll do the first 3. Generosity, we take in 3 deep breaths as you take in, and then particularly after taking in, then you breathe out. As you breathe out, imagine that all your happinesses, particularly the first breath in the form of the material wealth, they all go out from your right nostril in the form of very soothing lights and nectars. They simply go out and spreads to all sentient beings. The mere touch of these lights and the nectars with the bodies of beings and others give them all the material wealth. For example, those who do not have food, they transform into food. Those who do not have wealth, they transform into wealth. And those who do not have the facilities for the educations and so forth, they turn into education facilities and so forth. So all these things, material wealth, what the sentient beings need, imagine that they transform into their respective needs. Okay. And then with the second one is love, giving love. Imagine that you are like these nectars, the mere touch of these nectars and lights with others, the bodies and beings, then they feel the maximum love from you. And third one is sense of security, sense of protection. Those with fear of their life, the mere touch of light nectars, the fear is gone, and they're instilled with such a sense of the safety, security, and peace. Okay, first we'll do these three. And then as we breathe out, you do like this, and then as you breathe in, when taking the breathing in, that is preparing yourself for the next one. There, the process happening there in the essential meat, the process of the nectars turning into material wealth, the food, the turning into compassion, turning into security, and so forth. Okay. Okay, first, let's do the three. Okay, first let's do just the first one 3 times. Material generation, generosity of material wealth 3 times. Now imagine that all sentient beings, they have all their respective needs are fulfilled, the food, material wealth, health facilities, everything intact. Next, the generosity of love. Imagine there are so many people, there are so many animals, there are so many people who have never received any love from others. They lose trust in others. Now you are giving love to them. Imagine that now they experience this love, intense love, very genuine love, so pure love. Next, generosity of protection, security, and so forth. Imagine those who are in the hands of the terrorists. You send these nectars, the terrorists, their mind changes, and then all these beings who are the captives, the mere touch of light and so forth, they release from the terrorists' hands. They meet with their parents, they meet with their children, they meet with their near and dear ones. They're so happy. And then even the animals in the slaughterhouse, in the chickens in the KFC and so forth. That's, just imagine the mere touch of the light and nectar, they receive the maximum security, they're released from their imprisonment, they meet with their children, they meet with their parents and so forth, even the animals, even the chickens. Then in the hospitals, hospices, some kind of miracle happens because of the touch of the nectars and lights with the bodies of these, and then they all retrieve their health, they become so healthy once more. They meet with their parents, they meet with their children, and so forth. Likewise, anyone who has such a fear in the mind, the fear is gone, there's such a sense of security, confidence, fearlessness coming in them. Okay, we're going to do 3 times. Now imagine that each of them, they are so fearless, they are so happy. They're with their parents, they're with their children, they're with their family members, they're so happy. Okay. Now the first 3 measures, they are temporary measures. The ultimate measure is the 4th one, which is the generosity of dharma, generosity of the wisdom, generosity of the teachings to show them the proper path, so that that happiness they get becomes so eternal. The suffering that they've gotten rid of is gotten rid of for good. For that, we need to teach them. We need to teach them dharma, so that the Buddha nature within them becomes manifest fully, that they become so self-sufficient, they don't have to depend on any other factors, their happiness becomes maximum, and their suffering becomes zero. And this dharma can be fourfold. One is the dharma to generate renunciation. Next one, the dharma to generate bodhicitta. Next one, the dharma to generate the wisdom of emptiness, to let them wake up from the sleep of ignorance. Next, the dharma of the non-duality of wisdom and bliss. Wisdom, emptiness, and bliss. Okay, the first three, let's do the generosity of the dharma of the renunciation in the form of 4 seals. All composite things are impermanence. All contaminated things are suffering nature. Everything is of the nature of emptiness, selflessness. Transcending sorrows, nirvana. So those of you who are hearing this for the first time, don't worry. Simply imagine that as you breathe out, you imagine the nectars and soothing lights go out, and the mere touch with the bodies beings, all sentient beings, they are given the insight that samsara is not a pleasant place. Samsara is to be abandoned. So the desire to get out of the samsara comes to the mind. This is the dharma of the 4 seals. Okay, let's do this 3 times. Breathe in 3, breathe out 3 times. Okay, now followed by the dharma of bodhicitta. Imagine that you are teaching them that you should become Buddha, you should become fully enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay, you are instilling this dharma in them 3 times. Okay, now the wisdom of emptiness. Imagine that you are letting them wake up from the sleep of ignorance. And finally, all this dharma should be experienced in the form of non-duality, of bliss and the wisdom of emptiness. Imagine that you are sharing this dharma with all of them. Okay, very good. Now step number 6. Actual exchange of the self and others. Here we make commitment. Henceforth, given that all happinesses come to me by cherishing others, all my suffering will go by giving up the self-centered attitude. Henceforth, I'll cherish others more than to myself. Let's make 3 commitments, very strong 3 commitments. I'll cherish others more than myself. I will cherish others more than to myself. Even for my own sake, I'll cherish others for more than myself.